All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully your favorite Chelsea podcast out there and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. Dan, one of your hosts here alongside Nick. We are coming to you after Chelsea lose 1-0 on the weekend against Arsenal. A critical 3 points that could have gone a long way for Chelsea to secure Champions League football next season. Go bye at the Emirates. And it is not what we wanted to see. I think before we get into all the doom and gloom, maybe we should just celebrate the winners of the Subway Cup, Nick. That at the top is probably the most positive we could be about anything related to Chelsea Football Club at the moment. Hats off to Sonia and team winning the League Cup this weekend against Man City. Huge fashion in the series of Manchester City matches we're about to have against the side.
If you didn't see, and you should see, because that team is much more fun than the men's team to watch. Sonia Bonepastor and the Chelsea women beat Manchester City 2-1 on Saturday, early Saturday morning for the Subway Cup, formerly known as the Conti Cup, always known as the League Cup. And it was a shithouse game. It was played on an awful pitch in Derby, and it was won by us because that team is made up of winners and they have the right mentality heading into games. And the manager explicitly states what the goals and ambitions are for the team, and they go achieve those goals and ambitions. So if you're a fan of Chelsea Football Club of old that sets real targets and goes and achieves those targets, boy, they're a good watch. And I'll have a YouTube video out on Tuesday about the League Cup final and the upcoming first leg of the Women's Champions League quarterfinal against City. Then we play City in the league at the weekend, and then we play City one more time just for good measure the day that we head to London on the 27th. And look, it's going to be fun. So that team, congratulations. This men's team, step into the principal's office, please, because we have some stuff to talk about.
Well, we'll capture a little bit of the feelings from not just us, but from the listeners and the viewers as well, with some 3-word match reviews. If you haven't been here before, that's how we give people an opportunity to participate in the show with a 3-word summary of what happened with the match. We had Nicholas J. Gomez with the pass and pass. Very descriptive of Chelsea's game plan, this one. Grizz with the "Aren't you entertained?" question mark. Definitely not.
You must be entertained. You have to love this, Dan. Go.
Jason Cassidy with the "still fourth somehow." Yes, the mystery is there. Drogba with the "London is a boo." That's good. That's fair. And then Mr. Thurman with the "nope, not us." Very much to our "why not us" theme that we've had on the show before. And that's a sad one, but very accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I went with damage limitation strategy. We will talk more about that in a bit. It did feel like we set out to have a 0-0 draw at the Emirates, and then it didn't happen, and then we didn't do anything about it. So, cool.
I went with Maresca misfires continue, because this is just another in a series of what feels like decisions that have not gone in the way that you would hope or the outcome that you would look to produce. And, you are the one, unfortunately, in the middle of the conversation when it comes down to the fact that you just have to get the job done at the end of the day. You might not have the players that you want. You might not have all of your healthy set of personnel available, but you still have to find a way to look competitive, at least. And this Chelsea side did not look on the day anywhere near the level of an Arsenal team that feels very much far and away from where they are in terms of their league position. That did not feel like a second place Premier League team at the moment. Anyway, though, let's get into it. It was Arsenal's past weekend, this Sunday, March 16th, in the Premier League at the Emirates. It was a 1-0 scoreline. Marino, the 20-minute off of his header past Robert Sanchez, which was a pretty poor defense on the goal. Can we just say that, Nick?
Yeah. Good. I mean, it was bad all around. The set piece defending was. It's not. Look, I'm a believer. Anytime you score on a set piece, it's not just the goalkeeper, unless he literally hands the ball into the net, right? So there are many things that have to go wrong.
Could he do that this season still, though? Could he do that?
Let's not rule anything out, Dan. I think let's leave all of our creative options open. But it was poor defending all over the place.
Robert
Awful.
Sanchez is the Michael Scott, like maybe next time you'll estimate me type of meme. Like that's where he's at with it, his current level of performance at the moment. It was Robert Sanchez between the sticks, which came as a little surprise, sort of, but he got rotated in back as number one. West Fafana, Levi Colwell, Benoit Badiashile, and Mark Cucurella as your back line. It was Reece James and Moises Caicedo in the midfield, Jadon Sancho, Enzo Fernandez, and Nkunku, as well as Pedro Neto up top. And look, you had all five subs used in this match. Maybe some theming from the Subway Cup this weekend. Kieran Dewsbury Hall, Tyreek George, Romeo Lavia, Tosin, and Gusto all making appearances off the bench. None of them coming before the 76th minute, though. We had a double change in the 76th. We had one change in the 82nd, which was the Lavia and James, and then Tosin and Gusto came in for Badiashile and Fafana, which at 86 minutes in the game doesn't feel like it's going to change too much, Nick.
No, there were limited options, obviously, coming off of the bench, right, to really impact this game from an attacking standpoint. I do feel like you can look at the options that you potentially have and make some earlier changes. Would be my only kind of criticism there. Is like, is the 76th minute in a game that you haven't come remotely close to scoring a goal in, other than Cucurella almost, getting a gift from David Raya that you're uh, maybe you bring in Ty George much sooner. Maybe you try Malagusto up as a winger because we know he can cross the ball into the box, or get Reece James up there to make something happen, or put a big body like Tosin up at striker. Like, just try fucking anything. I don't know. Would be a suggestion. But yeah, there weren't a ton of attacking options. It was really Ty as the only like out and out attacker on the bench.
It did feel as if, though, this season was the season where that type of goal that had two deflected bounces to other players, with Cucurella scoring after David Raya fumbling, would have been a very Chelsea 24-25 goal. Like, that to me would have summed up the season.
I would have been over the moon if that went into the net. I wouldn't have cared if David Raya had placed it in there himself. I would have been over the moon. That was legitimately the only real chance that we had in the game, was a Cucurella volley that was kind of a messed up play where the ball kind of rattles around. Credit to him, he's the only one putting shots on target right now, but it's certainly not what you'd hope for in the final stat line there.
Yeah, well, when you speak of the stat lines, just to give you the summary, it was 59% possession to Chelsea, 41 to Arsenal. They had 0.71 XG to our 0.37. It just seemed like there was just one goal in the game, and that was all the difference that was in this one. We had 8 shots to their 12, 2 on target to their 4. We shot off target 3 times to their 6. We blocked 3 to their 2. They, though, were very comfortable. 9 of those 12 shots inside the box. So they were absolutely getting very far into our kind of end of the pitch and trying to make it work in time. I'd say the one random stat was just that 0.35, or it was 0.36. Chelsea's XG at the Emirates Day was the lowest in any game under Enzo Maresca, being his 43rd match in charge, restricted from our friends at Opta Joe. Just tells the tale, Nick.
We also have one from Opta Sam.
I've not heard of this individial before. Is this a newcomer on the scene? He's a young buck trying to make his name in the stat world?
Opta Sam, as you'll know, CFC Central. Chelsea generated their lowest XG in a league game in 855 days. 1-0 loss to Newcastle in the 22-22 or 22-23 season, which was a 0.3 XG. Opta Sam making Opta Joe look like a chump right here. I said this on Twitter, and I believe I was pretty upset after the game. But
you,
yeah, me. I do think there are some stats that don't tell a story, right? There are some stats where you're like, oh, really? Like, that didn't like conform to the reality that I was participating in. And then there are some stats that hit it right on the absolute head. And that stat from Sam, that stat from Opta Joe hit it right on the head. We created absolutely nothing in this game. It was embarrassing.
It is our sixth game where we have not scored a single goal. The others being the 3-0 loss to Brighton, the 2-0 loss to Newcastle, the 2-0 loss to City, the 0-0 draw against Everton, and then the 2-0 loss to Ipswich Town. So this now joins the grouping of that fixtures. This, though, was the match of lowest XG with no goal. Before it was the Brighton match where we registered just half a goal in terms of what we would have expected to get out of that one. The other ones, we actually either we won the XG pretty heavily, 2.0 to 1.6 in the Ipswich game, 1.2 to 1.0 in the Everton game, 1.0 to zero point 0.8 in that first Manchester City game to start the season. And then the Bright one was the only one that we had like a loss on the day for. So like very like just in terms of it, the stats would tell you and the eye test would tell you not a good watch overall. We want to get though into Enzo Maresca had a ton of comments afterwards. I mean, he is definitely putting himself in the central position as the central figure to draw, I think, a lot of criticism at the moment for the way the team is playing. And we'll get into all that right after this break. So stay tuned. Nick, the comments. We didn't have any in the midweek because for a reason they decided Conference League doesn't need a post-match presser. It's too late in the evening. We're not going to do that. But this one, though, this game, Maresca did have some comments. And I think the way that you titled this section was, what is he even talking about? It's a very New York thing. I love what you're doing here with this.
Hey, what are you talking about?
What are we talking about here?
Dude, I think it was smart of them in the midweek to not bring him out for a press conference because lately he is putting his foot in his mouth. And this was one of those detached from reality sorts of things. I will read the quotes in three sections. One was about the performance, one was about Robert Sanchez, and then one was about Cole Palmer, which is actually a critical update for us. First section about the performance. We struggled a little bit at the beginning, the first 20 minutes. Understatement of the year. Thank you. After that, we started to control the game and create some chances. No, we didn't. No, we didn't at all. We didn't create any chances. The game was 50-50 in the second half. The big difference was set piece strategy. We competed well. The game was there. They scored a set piece. They are masters at that. It is a shame, but my feeling is that we are going in the right direction. What I can say about the first game against Arsenal and today's game, I don't see a big difference between us and them. Since I arrived, I have the feeling we are in the right path and we are very close. Probably we just needed to step forward and compete in these kind of games, but that step comes along with finishing in a Champions League spot. Okay.
Wait, can I say one? I can see a big difference between our teams, and it's the difference between 58 and 49, which is the number of points each team has respectively in the table right now.
Mm-hmm. That's a big point. That last quote doesn't make any sense because he says we competed well, but then also we didn't compete in this game at all because we haven't finished in a Champions League spot. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading that wrong or whatever. Maybe it sounded differently in the actual video. This is just a bag of lies. I mean, there is nothing in this game. Dan, what was the XG on our chances again?
The XG, like total XG for the game,
Yeah.
or just like individual?
So just for us.
Total XG was 0.36, and Mark Cucurella had a very outsized amount of that himself.
Okay. So in your mind, when you think of, and look, Arsenal only had a 0.71. It's not, not like they were playing us off the park or anything like that. We competed well and created chances. No, we didn't. And this is where like he runs into problems because the guy who came into this team when we were playing well, the no bullshit guy, has turned into I have to try and say anything to wash away the stink of this performance. And he is flat out embarrassing himself with these quotes because it's nowhere near the reality of what we watched.
It was a performance where some of the things we did, like the back three, and then trying to kind of like make the midfield a little bit more congested. I mean, some of that did work to, I think, stifle things that Arsenal like to do and Arsenal enjoy. So I guess you could maybe give a half point of credit to Maresca for seeing something and trying to figure it out. The problem is there was not enough end product. The sideways passing versus kind of more direct passing, trying to find lanes, and then really not having, I think, any attackers who are comfortable, at this point in time, trusting themselves, trying to drive in, trying to make something happen at goal. I mean, Neto, bless his heart, ran a ton, but a lot of
Mhm.
it amounted to nothing. And then you had Jaden Sancho, who's having a very, very bad run of form for himself, and Nkunku, who, again, we're probably anywhere between 9 to 14 total games left with him as a player at Chelsea Football Club, would be my guess. He's winding down his clock here as well. The commitment is low. The commitment on the pitch feels low. It is low, and then in terms of the output that you see.
The- These guys, after going down 1-0 against a struggling Arsenal team, this is not an Arsenal team that's playing great football in the Premier League. They are, they have injury problems just like we do. They've played some absolutely dire football this year. Their fans are proclaiming Arteta out and all this other stuff. It's not like they're flying right now. And we went there, got down a goal, and then decided to pass the ball around the back to make it look more competitive than it was on a stat sheet. Where is an incisive run in behind? Where is a different tactical move than faking like you're going to take someone on one and then just end up passing the ball back? All Arsenal had to do was score a goal and then not get out of first gear the rest of the game. And that's not just me saying this. Like, I know in these moments where I'm upset, especially after losing to these fucking clowns, that people are going to be like, "Oh, Nick, you're the only one who's this upset about this." I'm not. Go look at Twitter right now. Go look at well-respected Twitter people right now. There are a bunch of people who I think a lot of people would value their opinion, who said, "Holy shit, this was one of the worst things I've ever seen. This is like Conte going to Man City and only losing 1-0, even though we got played off the park the entire time." We didn't try to win the game. We didn't try to win the game at all. It was like they went for a 0-0 draw. And once that was out the door, it was like, all right, I guess just limit all the damage. We don't want to have a 5-0 blowout like last year. So let's just be as safe as we can be. And I don't get it. I don't understand it.
We have some other quotes we want to get to. I want to contextualize just where this loss sits. So in our last 10 Premier League matches now against Arsenal, this actually is a little bit of a Chelsea problem. I mean, Maresca is now at fault for one of the draws and one of the losses out of those 10. We only have one Premier League win in our last 10 matches against Arsenal. And in that time, that one win, two draws, 7 losses, 19 goals allowed, 7 goals for. And most of those goals clearly did not go to games that made you more competitive to win. Like, it was, oh, you scored one in a 3-0 loss, a 3-1 loss. You scored one in another 3-1 loss. You scored 2 in a 4-2 loss. Like, the goals have come really in games that did not kind of amount to anything for Chelsea. And, again, you kind of highlight it, though. The fact that Cucurella is the leader in shots on target, the only 2 shots on target in the game, as far forward as Jaden Sancho, kind of on the average pass position map and just behind Pedro Neto, tells you that something formationally like isn't getting players into the right position. And that also came with the when Jaden Sancho swapped sides occasionally too.
It's not working. It doesn't look like a team that is confident, even against Conference League opponents, in what this system can produce. And again, if I were Enzo Maresca, and I am certainly not, he is a talented football coach, and I am a guy with a podcast. But if I were Enzo Maresca, I would be legitimately thinking about, how do I survive this upcoming run? Because right now, I genuinely don't think it's tenable. I don't think this is tenable. I don't think his players believe in the system. They're certainly not performing like they do. The intensity is not there. Like it is really, really bad. One of the players, though, Dan, who continues to inspire lots of fervor in the Chelsea community, Robert Sanchez had about the worst 20 minutes I've ever seen in goal at the start of this game. The quotes after were the following: I think he did a good game. He did some good saves. With the feet, he was quite good in some moments and sometimes struggled a little bit. But overall, I think he was good. Care to take that one on, Dan?
It was not good. It was not a good performance for a goalkeeper in the Premier League who wants to help his team win 3 points. I think the stat is now that he has 8 errors leading towards a goal, and that's the most in the Premier League at the moment. Like, it's sabotage. like, like BC Boys told you what it was. It is absolutely sabotage having him as your starting choice keeper or
It's a
one of your
real New
starting
York
choice
episode
keepers.
out of us today, Dan.
I know we're really
It's
just
a
we're taking it from
no,
Queens to the Bronx and everywhere in between.
working in no sleep till Brooklyn, or what else? What else you got?
I don't know. We can get a couple on here. It's just the fact that there were briefs last week that we're going into next season, and the choice of top keeper for this team is Rob Sanchez, Philip Jorgensen, or Petrovic, who is having a pretty lights out season in Ligue 1 at the moment, does not fill me with a bunch of confidence that, okay, we bring back Petrovic and let's just say he is now at the standard of a top 6 Premier League club. Well, what if he gets hurt and then you have to go back to Sanchez or Jorgensen again? Like, clearly, this is not a great group of goalkeepers. And just as much as, again, we put it on Maresca, like, the sporting directors are getting to hide behind an individual at the moment with a lot of the bad decisions that they've seen. Like, you look at how Forest have built their team, you look at the way that Liverpool have restructured and bounced back 1 year later. You look at what, I mean, Arsenal, you argue maybe not strong, but like, there are teams that have figured out how to do this. And Chelsea have spent a ton of money and put people in position, empower them to go make these decisions. And you are not getting a great return on your investment, which for owners who are involved in private equity, ROI should be very common, the common denominator of understanding. And I think there's a lot, again, we'll point to the end of the season that would have to be under review. And this goalkeeping group would be one of them.
I mean, look, just it's not going to get any better. Like our goal, the ceiling of our goalkeeping group is a 6 out of 10. But that's the absolute highest that it will be. Yeah, Sanchez made one good save today. Like the one off the goal line. That was a good save. His first 20 minutes don't erase that. It's crazy. I mean, they asked Tim Howard after the game on the NBC coverage, which, I think a lot of people have different feelings about Tim Howard's commentary, but on goalkeeping, I think, fair enough source to try and get a quote out of, right? And he was like, yeah, I think Jorgensen has a simpler game and he probably makes less mistakes. And if it just feels like you're taking this shot stopper in Sanchez and you're trying to make him an outfield player, and and because he is thinking about the outfield player stuff, he's not doing the shot stopping as well. He made that crazy ass dive last weekend out of nowhere that almost led to a goal. He, in this game, completely and utterly mispositioned himself many, many times. It's not a way to win football matches. Like, if I were looking at this objectively, I'd say, how do we keep the ball out of the back of the net? And then we figure out everything else. Because keep the ball out of the back of the net, a 0-0 draw today, we'd be fine, right? No problems.
One point would have gone a long way to our hopes, dreams, and aspirations of Champions League football. Not that this team looks ready to compete in the Champions League next season, unless the summer is rife with replenishment of this side. I think the last thing we want to kind of touch on is that Cole Palmer did miss the game. Maresca did give an update. He said he was injured from yesterday's session. It was a muscular problem. He needs a scan. It's planned for Monday, tomorrow morning. I hope he can be back in the next game. Wait for a scan. We don't wish players injury, but in Cole's case, in this moment, we'll give him some rest physically and mentally. It could be good. Does feel as if every bit while there probably is a legitimate muscular issue, it's also on the eve of an international break. And I think what we of Chelsea fans have been asking for is for Cole Palmer to get any type of rest from football. And
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, we love our guy Thomas Tuchel. But please, oh please, these international matches are not going to be super important. Let's give Cole a little bit of a break here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does depend on like if it's a physical thing, if it's an exhaustion thing, right? Like, you totally understand it, right? He's been trying to backpack the team all fucking season. You get it if it was, that physical mental fatigue kind of playing off of each other is a real thing. Um, let's hope it's not a physical thing too much, right? Not a calf strain, not a hamstring strain, not a thing. If it isn't a physical thing, go to England, don't play, right? Go be around your teammates, get out of the Chelsea environment for a little bit. Matt talked about that a couple pods ago, just the value of him being with his England teammates in a different setting, and maybe that helping to kind of clear his head, kind of talking to some different folks and just having a change of scenery. That wouldn't be the end of the world. But if it is a physical, it could be the move. If it is a physical thing, you probably need him to stay home, and that becomes a whole other thing. So you just really, really hope that he's all right. Because boy, I mean, Enzo Fernandez not an ideal replacement for Cole Palmer. It turns out.
I don't really think there is a direct replacement on this team
No.
or many direct replacements in world football for someone like Cole Palmer at this point in time. And you just got to hope that for this next run of games that he is back and he is fit and he is available, because we're going to take an ad break. When we get back, we're talking about the concept of 9 more finals. I saw it in Kukureya's comment on Twitter and on Instagram. Like the team is framing this identity. 9 more finals in the Premier League with the matches that they have remaining. Let's not forget they have most likely are going to have another legitimate final that they need to think about too. But we'll go with the 9 more finals line for right now. But stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. Okay, Nick, 9 more finals in the Premier League. We are down to the very tail end of the season. We are playing against 14th at time of recording, 14th, 11th, 18th, 8th, 15th, 1st, 6th, 13th, and 3rd place in the Premier League in this run. You would argue that you're seeing a bunch of numbers of teams that are lower than you on the table, which should give you hope, should instill confidence into you at what this team could do against sides that are facing mediocrity or potentially looking at an exit from the Premier League this season. But why don't you tell me why you don't feel that way?
It's all about us and our performances. I mean, the goals have dried up significantly. The team is still making silly mistakes. And, we got out set piece today after recruiting Brentford's set piece coach and another set piece coach. We're still getting out set pieced. So, I just don't think this team has a serious enough approach, a consistent enough level of performance, or the right sort of vibe. And I know that that's really, really kind of out there to say vibe, but like, what a good winning team looks like. We saw ourselves be that earlier in the season where we collected a majority of our 49 points. And this just isn't, it's not tracking in the right direction, and like, yes, all of these teams are below us for the most part. We have, 2 that aren't in this run, but you could name a few of these teams that are playing much better than we are right now.
And that run again includes Spurs, Brentford. So home to Spurs, away Brentford, home Ipswich, away Fulham, home for Everton, home for Liverpool, away to Newcastle, home for United, and away to Forest to round out the season. I think what you're speaking to, this run of form and the goals drying up, Cyber Guy 5 on the Chelsea Reddit was posting that Chelsea won 4 of their last 13 Premier League matches. It was Wolves in 17th, West Ham in 16th, Southampton in 20th, and Leicester City in 19th. So we've been able to punch down on the bullies and collect some lunch money. Or we are the bullies. We're punching down to collect some lunch money. But the problem is there are bigger bullies than us, and they've been able to give us a really, really rough time and collected their due. I mean, in only one game, sorry, 3 games since the start of the year, 4 games since the start of the year, Chelsea have scored more than 1 goal. The 2-2 against Bournemouth, the 3-1 against Wolves, the 2-1 against West Ham, and then the 4-0 against Southampton. I mean, we have had the 3-0 against Brighton, the 2-1 against Villa, the 3-1 against City. I mean, then you go back, even this run of 13 includes the 2-1 loss to Fulham, the 2-0 loss to Ipswich. Like, there's some pretty bad losses in here, and even draws that Chelsea would be in a much more comfortable position had you done the business earlier. And now you are I didn't study, I have a group project due, and boy, oh boy, that final is coming up way quicker.
Cramming. Yeah. No, it's you're not only not scoring goals, you're giving up a shit ton of goals. Right? You gave up 2 to Fulham, 2 to Ipswich, 2 to Bournemouth, a 1 to Wolves, who basically can't score this season, 3 to City, right? 3 to Brighton, 2 to Villa. Like these are not like prolific teams in goal scoring either. They're below us in the table. But yeah, I mean, you look at the form guide, and it's not just taking a sample of the last 5 games and going, are Chelsea in a slide? This is almost 3 months of the fixtures, right? Going back to December 22nd. It is March 16th as we record this. We have not done a good enough job in the league. We have not scored enough goals. We have not kept enough out of the back of the net. And really, like, the eye test would tell you, we're not playing good football.
Yeah.
Right? The passing is not nearly as free flowing as it was at the start. Players in different positions all over the pitch. You could argue about today's lineup that there were players all over the place in different positions where if you would have placed them in a more traditional setup, maybe they would have thrived a little bit more. And you want to talk about being like flat track bullies. If you were really flat track bullies, you would have beat the hell out of Ipswich. You definitely would have closed the deal against Fulham. You would have beat Palace twice this season. You probably would have beat Bournemouth, although that point was okay. I mean, we kind of rescued it late. You would have competed against City. Didn't really do that. You definitely wouldn't have got skunked by Brighton. And you would have been competitive today against Arsenal. And you really think about this. What is our best win this year, Dan? What's our best win? What's our best performance against a team at our level or above?
I mean, if you're thinking about like top 6, like our top 6 record has been tragic in terms of the results that we have. I mean, you would argue, I guess.
For me, it's the Newcastle game early in the season, but they were not top 6 when we played them.
No,
they were in a really tough spot. They're better
it was
now.
week 9. It was a 2-1 win. I mean, yeah, none of the wins that you'd argue like, oh, it was really like high scoring, like high velocity win against any of those teams. I mean, the 4-3 like against Tottenham was chaotic, right? But that's like, this Tottenham team is not as good. Though we're saying that now, that Tottenham team is going to come absolutely ready to play when we're there, and it's going to be a very, very difficult game at the Bridge for them. I mean, the 4-2 win against Brighton might be one of the better games this season.
That was the most entertaining of the games for sure. Like that was fun. The Villa performance was really good, but I don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe they were top 6 when we played them. I think they were kind of down
at something.
Yeah,
I mean, like the points though are so thin still between league position, which I think is the scary point. And when you look at what that means for where kind of the projected end of the season finishes for Chelsea. Like we've gotten to scary time here. Like what
Yeah.
could have been merely an academic exercise to
Hmm.
just coast until the end of the season has really become a fighting tooth and nail to take it all. The Opta analyst site does a rerun of the expected points at the end of every set of games or any at end of the game week. No surprise, they expect that Liverpool will win the league and be in first position. They expect that Arsenal will be in second position, somewhere close to 77 points. They expect that Forest, who they previously, in a couple weeks ago, had like they're going to finish fourth, fifth, or sixth, is now firmly in the hey, they're going to be probably close to 68 points in third place.
Yep.
They project City will be in fourth at 66 points, and they'll project it now. The final flip has happened, and that it's Newcastle with 64 points, and then
Hmm.
Chelsea with 63.46 would actually round out your top six. You would lose out in this model less than half a point or just over half a point more between fifth and sixth place. It is so thin at the
Hmm.
moment that every point you can pick up, we keep on mentioning this, every time you lose a point or drop 3 points, more and more critical that you pick it up. I mean, obviously, Newcastle did not play this weekend. They had a chance and they did beat Liverpool in the League Cup. So hats off to them for that. Nice to see Liverpool not win everything, but still feels bad to watch somebody else win that isn't Chelsea. They're at 47 points right now on the table on actual points. They've only played 28 games. So they would jump us just with the game in hand if they win
Hmm.
it. And they have, I would say, a more arguably favorable set of fixtures heading into the end of the season. They have Brentford, Leicester, Man United, Crystal Palace, Villa, Ipswich, Brighton, and then their last three are probably more challenging. The May 10th game between Newcastle and Chelsea could potentially be a you in or you out type of game. They do play Arsenal the following game week, and they wrap up with Everton. Newcastle look very much the threat to jump us at the moment and put us out into a Europa League spot versus a Champions League spot.
Yeah, or worse. I mean, you think about Newcastle is the rival right now. I have no doubt that City and Forest are going to finish in the top four. That just kind of tracks with my brain. Although City are making it impossible for themselves as well with their performances. Who would you rather be right now, Newcastle or Chelsea?
One
I
of
don't
them is
think it's
scoring goals. That's just
yeah. I don't think it's remotely close. I would much rather be Newcastle. I'd much rather, have a striker, have a decent setup, not have to play this fake control game that we're playing. I mean, it's if you were looking at the form guide, that's who I'd rather be. And I think that we are in a battle for sixth or seventh right now. Like that really is where I think we're going to end up.
just to be fair, their form guide over the last five is loss, loss, win, loss, win, and so like they have a very similar form guide to us right now, which is why we have not seen separation between the two,
No, nobody is playing well in the Premier League right now. Nobody.
except
Like
Liverpool.
it, kind of. I mean, they're okay, but like even their performances have fallen
They
off. Like
have one loss the entire season. Come on, like
right, but I'm just saying their performances are not great right now. Like they're in a struggle mode as well right now. This is
four wins and one draw to the last five. Like
again, yes, I get it, but like you look at this league. It's the worst Premier League in decades. If you cannot get a top five finish in this shitty Premier League with these shitty teams around us, like it's a fireable offense to me. Like you genuinely, and I haven't said that all year. I've wanted to give him time, but like you keep seeing the results around us. You could potentially you're Brighton, Newcastle, Forest City, all the way down to Villa are still in this thing. Like any of these teams in this shitty Premier League are potentially still top five options. If any one of them could put a string of results together in the last nine, right? Newcastle last 10, because they
sure.
obviously competed and won. But like, if you can't get top five in this, and it's a guaranteed top five now because of the coefficient, It's never going to be easier. This is such a bad league this year. It's so unpredictable. But like, if you have an ounce of quality in you for these last 9 games, you could easily, if you're Chelsea Football Club, finish in 4th, maybe even 3rd. Right? If you go on a real tear, you're still only 5 points behind Forest. You know, it's
Yeah.
not impossible. But on the flip side, you could easily end up in 10th if you're not performing.
And that is what you would hope would not happen at this point. I mean, we think we have things to look forward to after the international break. That would hopefully be Cole Palmer rested and healthy, and that this muscle issue is not anything more long term and just a fatigue situation. That potentially Nico Jackson comes back and the targeting computer is fully locked in, and he's ready to give us his very much an end of the season go and get it done. That also frees up some of our other players. Obviously West has come back. He's looked a little bit better from a center back position. That's nice. Like maybe that allows Reese to kind of move back. And we saw Lavia back in this match. Like there are things that you can hope for and view as potential signs or things that might help us make this across the line at the end of the season. But it is going to be difficult. It's going to be a very difficult run. And every one of these games that you don't do the business on, like you need to go, I think, effectively up to that Fulham game having one out. I think the first 3 back, like you need to get into the
Minimum.
a month from now, just over a month, under a month from now, 3 matches, you need to have taken 9 points if you're going to be really serious. And then I would argue that you need to double up and get another 6 because effectively those last 4 are going to be really tough. The Liverpool, Newcastle, and United is just always a wonky result between our 2 teams. And then Forest might be on a beach, but I think they're going to they're loving football right now. And I think they're going to be pedal to the metal to the end of the season and going to be real value for money on it. So,
I mean, Matt and I talked, that Spurs result, it could be everything. I mean, if you cannot beat this Spurs team at home, this very bad, not good at all Spurs team, if you can't beat them at home and put on a show against that stupid high line, the diabolical play that they have, you probably don't deserve to make it. I mean, just candidly, like we're looking at a Spurs team in 15th, 14th place. I mean, these matches are right in front of us. If you just beat the teams that are below you, 1 or 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, let's call it 18, 21, you could probably get 21 out of a possible 27 points. If you just do the job of continuing to punch down on teams that are hypothetically worse than you are, that Fulham game is going to be really, really tricky. They're playing well right now. Yes, they're below us in the table, but they're playing well. Right? I mean, Everton have completely changed since Moyes got there. Like these are different teams than when we first went around the horn with them.
So if we just take the Opta number and where we're at in the table, the Opta number said that 64 for Newcastle was enough. We're at 49 points right now. It would mean that you need 15 points out of those remaining 9 games, which if you're a legitimate team in the Premier League and that's the fixture grouping that you have ahead of you, there should be 15 points in there for you.
The first 5 games of this run: beat Spurs, beat Brentford, beat Ipswich, beat Fulham, beat Everton. If you can do that, your odds are probably up there.
You fight Newcastle to at least a draw, so that you do damage mitigation against them, and that you hope
you actually beat Manchester United.
Yeah, actually beat Manchester United, so that the Forest result at the end really doesn't matter. I mean, nothing is going to hurt more than a guard of honor for Liverpool, who have already won the league by the time we play them, on the 3rd of May. But that, unfortunately, is just where we are, and at least it's not Arsenal, I guess. So that's it, though. That's this podcast. We're heading into international break. Chelsea have apparently signed some players from Sporting. So Sam's working hard on some videos that we could do for the break over the next couple weeks. And then we'll be in London So smiles, positivity, happiness. We'll find a way. We'll make a way. It's still better being a Chelsea fan at the end of the day than supporting a whole lot of these other idiot clubs. So that is what we'll have a chance to do and be proud of. But thank you so much for listening to this one. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.